Hey everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent. I was digging around for video topics and realized I knew little to nothing about the celestial bodies that orbit the sun in Realmspace. Realmspace being the crystal sphere that houses Toril, the sun, and the moon. There are other heavenly bodies that are floating around in Realmspace. You're probably wondering how I craft such an interesting video. Well, I plan it because of the planets in the sky. Okay, let's dive in. Realmspace is the term to describe the solar system that Toril belongs to. On Toril, Realmspace was referred to as the Sea of Night, and the Netherese referred to it as the Skyward Realms. Realmspace contains a sun, 8 planets, and wild space, which is the vacuum between planetoids. When Spelljammer came around, there was an idea that all D&D settings could be connected through that setting. I could fly a Spelljammer ship from Toril, leave Realmspace, and visit Greyspace and the world of Greyhawk. So little solar systems were created for each campaign setting, housed in a crystal sphere. Adventurers like yourself can move from crystal sphere to crystal sphere by navigating the phlogiston that crystal spheres float in. Realmspace is about 6,400 million miles in diameter. From both the outside and the inside of Realmspace, it's viewed as perfectly flat, a solid wall. This is confusing because we have three-dimensional space within the crystal sphere, but that's what the game supplement said. Unique to Realmspace are the hundreds of millions of glyphs and wards that cover the inside of the crystal sphere. These words are miles tall and illegible. These glyphs hold powerful defensive spells, and if one was able to read them, they would activate a spell much larger than average, a blade barrier that covers most of the solar system. Nobody knows who wrote them or where they came from, but most believe they were put there to protect the inhabitants of Realmspace, to ward off greedy visitors that might try to destroy the planet for resources. The flickering of pseudostars shine with their light. They're actually portals that open to the quasi-elemental plane of radiance, giving the illusion of stars in the sky at night. In reality, the only star in Realmspace is the sun. A Spelljammer ship could travel through one of these quasi-elemental plane portals, but to travel into the plane of radiance is suicide. Your ship would combust, metallics would melt within 2 rounds, and all living creatures would die instantly. It's nearly impossible to accidentally travel onto one of these portals, as the light and power can be felt before arriving to the quasi-elemental plane. This next part gets weird. Only found in Realmspace, there is a large group of humanoids that continually walk across the inside of the crystal sphere chanting. All kinds of races are present: orcs, elves, humans, dwarves, etc. They walk side by side across the inside of the sphere in a north-south trajectory, all possessing the mark of Torm on their palms. There doesn't appear to be a way to communicate with them or stop them from their journey. Legend says they are souls of individuals who died performing evil deeds. Coincidentally, it is these souls that make it possible for Spelljammer ships to pass in and out of the crystal sphere. If these wanderers were to leave, so would the ability to produce portals outside and inside of Realmspace. Let's talk about the planetoids of Realmspace. First off, there's the sun. It's a huge spherical body of fire that warms the solar system. Dotting the surface of the sun are hundreds of small openings to the elemental plane of fire. From these portals, certain fire elementals or fire-loving creatures come to live on the sun. They have an ability to return to their native plane, but living on the sun is nice and plenty stay there. No magical protections can allow someone from the prime material plane to live here. Even the strongest items are overwhelmed in seconds, but perhaps in your game, someone's figured out a way. I'm sure you could come up with a solar adventure, perhaps reigniting the sun by drilling into it. That's an adventure I want to play in. The first planet is known as Adea. It's an amber and green planet and is populated at the poles by halflings, and around the equator by umberhulks. Much of the surface is canyons, and because of its closeness to the sun, it's a very dry and unlivable planet. The halflings here have darker skin and have lost their ability for dark vision. They're a pretty advanced society with 13 countries and laws that govern their people. Kolia is next. It's a spherical gas giant. Because of its proximity to the sun, the planet is quite warm, staying above 75 degrees at the poles and reaching as low as 40 during the winter. Within this gas planet float hundreds of earth and water islands. The planet is home to Aarakocra and other avian forms of life, as well as lizardmen and dragons. Elminster has a hideout here, a globe near the center gravity pole of the planet. Toril is the 3rd planet from the sun, and what else can I say? Humanoid races are the most prevalent, and it's a planet that is most like Earth. For more information on Toril, watch the other 70+ videos I've made on Forgotten Realms lore. Toril has a moon they call Selûne, named after the goddess of the moon, which has a magical illusion on it to make it appear uninhabited and desolate. In fact, it is neither of those things, and there are people on the moon, elves and humans. So yeah, take your party on a lunar vacation to Selûne. Carpri is next and is a planetoid of water. Aquatic elves, huge insects, and Arctic predators live on Carpri. There are no islands or land to speak of, but there are ice sheets at the poles, and around the equator is a huge bed of floating seaweed, large and thick enough to support weight. Enough in some spots to support a spelljamming ship landing on the planet. Chandos is another oceanic world, but its seas contain lumps of rock, creating unstable islands where humans, dwarves, and orcs live. It's been compared to a box of marbles filled with water. Rocks shift as the planet rotates, making the inhabitants nomadic due to caverns flooding and islands changing. Glyph is next, the sixth planet from the sun. The surface is a foul place with fires and thick, smoky atmosphere. 80% of the planet is land, with 20% of it being a mysterious gelatinous water substance. Glyph has a ring that orbits the planet and 3 moons. The Illithid have used Glyph as a place to farm their humanoid hosts and food. Deep underground is a resistance movement against the Illithids called the Free Thinkers Union. They lead attacks against the Illithids and their practices. It's not a fun place to visit. I'd like to thank Dice Dungeons for sponsoring this video. They're currently running a Kickstarter for their RPG character coins. 1-inch battle map grid-sized coins that can be used as PCs, NPCs, or monsters. They're double-sided with a torn magic book or a broken shield to show downed characters. Right now, they've broken most of their stretch goals with more options opening up. If character coins aren't your thing, perhaps zombie skeleton or 2-inch dragon coins are. Check them out today by clicking the link in the description. Garden is the 7th planetoid, and it's not actually a planet. In reality, it's a massive plant that holds earthy masses together. Non-sentient life lives on Garden, but it is also home to pirates. Also known as Yggdrasil's child, most spelljamming ships that arrive here do so to replenish their air supply. Pirate dens hide deep within the rocky asteroids that make up the center of the planet. Finally, the last planet is called Hakatha. I'm not sure. It's the 8th and final planet from the sun in Realmspace. It's a weird planet, and I guess I use the word planet loosely. It's actually a flat piece of water 300 miles thick with a mountain rising out from above. The water constantly drips off the side of the ocean and turns to mist. The mist then collects underneath the planet and becomes water again, churning the ocean. As it revolves around the sun, it looks like a wagon wheel with a large central mountain pointing to the sun. Beholders have taken over this world and killed its original inhabitants. Their current fate is unknown. Now there are 6 ports for spelljammer ships to land, each controlled by a different type of beholder. Because of their paranoia, only ships with items to trade or sell are allowed to land, and when business is done, they have to quickly leave. Traveling to different worlds in Realmspace could be an exciting adventure. There are some fun Star Trek scenarios one can play out with a spelljammer ship. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video on Realmspace interesting. Special thanks to my patrons on Patreon that keep these videos going. Check out Dice Dungeons Kickstarter in the doobly-doo, and I'll see you all next week with another video.